All right, it's on. So, all right. So we've got Bunny and Diane and myself, and we're going to be talking about PL course development and just kind of brainstorming, getting some ideas out there for us to share with the rest of the RESA directors. So, do you guys have the link to the agenda over on the right-hand side? Do y'all have that open?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's see what we got here. And this is just what I was getting out of my head. So if we want to tweak it, I'm happy to. So, so the aims, just kind of narrow down the learning focus. What is it we want to really focus on? And then start talking about so once we know what the focus of the course would be, what would be the aims for the teachers and for the students, and then the how. How would we run the course? How would it look? All those things. So kind of the why, the what, and the how. Mm-hmm. And I've used that strategy a number of times to get at the main thing is we have to know the why before we can really dive in. So are you guys good with that? Yeah. All right. So why offer the course? I know we've talked several things people have mentioned before, but what are your all's thoughts on that? Anyone? Did I lose y'all?
Oh,
okay.
I was interested in, your club tech when we looked at it at the last meeting, and then I looked at it a little bit. Mm-hmm. Your ideas looked great as far as it needs to be something in the summer that's motivational and open-ended so people don't feel locked down into a certain topic, or can branch out a little bit and also have some fun with it. Right. Mm-hmm. So why offer the course? So offer during a time convenient to teachers. Mm-hmm. Right.
And to encourage sustained learning, professional learning, so that the change does take place. The technology integration process in the classroom setting does take place over time.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so encourage and support. Mm-hmm. As I think a lot of that with any good PL, you have to have coaching too. So who are they going to receive coaching and inspiration? So I think it would serve as a PLN for teachers.
Yeah.
If they're all, embarking on similar challenges together, similar topics, they can share and brainstorm. Another thing, just getting down to what our classrooms look like now, is the shift from teacher-centered to student-centered. Mm-hmm. I think that is like the to me, that would be the impetus for the course.
Yeah.
How can we help teachers, give them tools and strategies to make that shift? And slow. You can't do it overnight. You know what I mean? So slow, gradually shift.
Mm-hmm. I think that's, like you said, that's the most important part of it, to build a student-centered learning environment.
Right. So why, going down to number 2, more of the why. Why change classroom practices, student learning experiences, pedagogy? Why change it?
Well, it seems like the buzzword right now is that technology can amplify learning. It seems like in the last few years it's been accelerate learning, and now my reading and so on, it seems like the new word is amplify.
So amplify, another, like you said before, it was accelerate. We've got personalize. All the different words that we can talk about. Engaged.
Yeah.
Right. So if done correctly, it can amplify learning and, let's see, increase, accelerate, engaged learners. I think another classroom practice, a shift that we can make is that teachers no longer need to be the owners of content, of knowledge. You know, if we teach students search practices and how they can get their answers, it's just as quick, and then they can go explore otherwise. So I think for me, that's a big push.
Right.
So teacher no longer needs to be the, what's the word I'm looking for? I took some notes from, well, I just got to find them. I've been working on going through the Google certification things. I've just never gotten around to it. And that's one of the things I'm like, oh gosh, why wouldn't we be doing more of that? Oh, here it is. Yeah, teachers no longer the source of knowledge. And there's this thing about ask 3 before me. That's a poster. Did you see that too?
Yes. The teacher requires the students to ask 3 before me.
Right.
Before they come to her. And I was going to tell you this. When I was in a 3rd grade class on May the 3rd, working with a 3rd grade teacher, this was her first time ever using Google Apps. These children had not logged into their Google account before. And we were going to practice a collaboration activity in class, you know, delivered through Classroom. And in 8 minutes, we had all 21 of those 3rd graders logged in to their account and on the slide, the collaborative slide file.
Isn't that amazing?
It isn't. She had the directions basically for the quick log, you know, the login. But as soon as she used peer tutors, as soon as the students were in, it wasn't me, it wasn't the teacher. Those students were going around and supporting their classmates to get in.
That's awesome.
Right.
So
They're using Chromebooks?
They were using Chromebooks.
Chromebooks or something else? Because that's Chromebooks. Advertisement is that you can be started with work so quick with a Chromebook compared to other devices. Well, that's a neat story, Diane. I love that.
That's awesome.
Pretty amazing to see them helping their peers, and their peers were accepting of them helping them, you know.
Right.
And I tried to encourage them to don't put your hands on the keyboard and do the work. You just guide. Let the student type it themselves so that they know how to do it the next time. You just be their guide. And it was just amazing to watch. I should have videotaped it
as it was going.
Yeah.
But they did it in 21 minutes. I mean, 21 students did it in 8 minutes. I thought that was pretty good.
That is.
They're just so capable of doing more.
Okay, so students are capable.
Yes, they're very capable of being, creating the knowledge that they're sharing out, being the source of knowledge where the teacher doesn't have to be. You know, they're very capable of, we just need to release it to them to do.
Right, and then have some of the, and that's where technology comes in, is being able to, because without devices and students being able to search by themselves, they do rely on the teacher, you know, to share that.
Yeah.
So that's where, you know, technology really comes to play. And I'm just gonna bounce this off you guys. One of the things that I think could be really powerful in a course like this could be a course centered around creating curious learners, and how you could build in like pedagogy and tips and tools for having students ask their own questions, research those questions using search tools and tips, and then present their information. I don't know. So it would change.
Love that.
I like it.
Yeah, so shift from the teachers asking the questions to help and train your teacher or students how to ask their own, how to find the answers to that. And then, you know, they can be open-ended questions too, you know, which gets into the higher order stuff. But there's so many tools out there that would lend themselves to that, even just inside Google.
Exactly.
That's my newest.
Very cool theme, kind of. I like that.
So
Creating curious learners.
create curious learners. So let me just jot that in right here. So I'm reading a book right now too called Make Just One Change.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it gets down to, is just the one change you can make in your classroom where yes, you'll still have guided questions and you'll still guide your students, but teaching them how to ask their own questions, and then how to then do it as a class or individually, and then go and explore that. I think that could be really powerful.
I mean, I totally agree. I think that they've gotten away from knowing how, either learning or either knowing how to ask questions, because of the programming that is being used so much, where it's just remediation kind of online programs where they're practicing skills.
Right.
They don't communicate with anybody other than that program. And so, conversation, dialogue,
Right.
is not there.
And then it's also, if they are learning how to ask the question, solve their own problems, using the ask 3 before me, and then they're able to take those search skills and those problem solving skills into the next level, into college, and so on and so forth. So I think it's really helping prepare them with skills as well as the content knowledge.
Yeah.
Right.
Skills
Skills
transfer right on,
So let's see what else we got here. Why doesn't technology enhance learning experience? So I think we all kind of get that.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to choose the right tools for the learning task instead of starting with the tool. So if the course were to start with, here's the strategy, and here's some tools that can lend itself to that strategy. I think that would be the way to approach it, instead of saying, this is Google Sites, read a Google site for your class. It's like, oh, okay, whereas instead you say, okay, for your student reflection and sharing of their learning, you could house their links to their work on a Google site, things like where teachers could think of other applications for it to fit with the learning goal. So
start with the tool, start with the strategy, not the tool.
Exactly. Yep. And then you open it up to show teachers, here's a suggested tool, but you might know of something different that would fit with this strategy even better. You know what I mean? So not even dictating what tool they'll use, but offering a tool and how they could use that tool for each challenge we might build or each strategy we might build. And that's what we did with our Club Tech. We had the 3 different iterations of the course. And the 3rd version of the course, we offered a suggested tool for doing that, because again, it was more concept based. And about 75% of the people chose to use that tool, but other people use different ones.
You choose your own tool.
So would you guys feel comfortable with proposing that idea to the other RESA directors?
Yes, I think that's good.
Oh, yes, I do.
They're liking.
I mean, I would be.
Okay. And one of the things I'm working on this summer too is I'm doing a HyperDocs course that could lend into this, as well as that inquiry course.
Yes.
I think that could help lend into it too, just some other strategies.
And tell me the name of the book that you were reading is, I wrote it down, it's called Make Just One Change.
Yep.
That's actually the title.
That's the name of it, and the author is Guzman and something else. But I heard about it in this book.
Okay, you got it from that book. Yes, I got that book ordered. Okay.
It's in chapter... It's when he's talking about essential questions and writing good essential questions. And he said he uses this framework, hold on, let me find it. That 73. The framework for asking questions, the question formulation technique, which is research-based, like it's out of Harvard.
Uh-huh.
And so we could, we could have that to back it up if people are like, well, what's this based on?
Yeah.
And the author is, okay, the name of it is Make Just One Change, Teach Students to Ask Their Own Questions. And it's got a whole technique and steps for doing it.
Okay.
So that would be pretty easy to build in, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And then if they're asking their own questions, and then we say, okay, now that you have your students asking their own questions, here are some ways that they can search. Do they know how to filter their search? Do they know how to use Google Scholar? Do they know how, all these things that I've been learning about? Like I just tipped the iceberg with some of those strategies.
So who's the author of the book, Carrie?
Which one? This one or the other?
Yeah, both of them. Go ahead and give me both of them. The Dive into Inquiry is
Trevor McKenzie.
Trevor, that's one.
And this one, Bunny, I'm going up to Oregon to do a deep dive with the author. And so it should have a lot of information. I'm sure he can give us some guidance too if we are developing a course, not necessarily on this, but like, a combination of things.
Right.
And then the other book is Make Just One Change.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Dan Rothstein and Luz Santana.
Dan, how do you say that?
Rothstein.
Okay.
And Luz, Luz, Santana.
Okay.
Yeah.
So both of those were in your book study for your trip to Oregon, or just one?
This is the
This one.
Okay. Yeah.
So mentioning that, did you get your team together? Did you get it finalized?
We've got it's me and Lisa for sure from RESA, and I believe Sharita is coming too. I just haven't heard back from her in about a week. She said she had filled out the RSVP form. I'm just not sure if she went all the way through the registration. And then from Cedar Shoals, the school that I'm going to be helping with that, we have a team from there going as well. So I'm excited to be able to work with it at the school level, and then hopefully regional, and go from there. So
yeah, well, that's great. Well, I've got the book ordered, and I'm going to read the book and just be on the same sheet of music with you with that book. But I want, I can't make it to.
Yeah, I know.
With all the other things I told you I was trying to do this summer.
Right.
I will get the book so that I can read it and have this.
And so will we. We will too down here at Chaplin. So
great.
That's great. And we'll have to travel vicariously through you, though, Carrie.
Okay, I'll be sure. I'll share if we get that platform set up. I can get some stuff.
Yeah. You and Lisa have fun and behave now.
Oh gosh, I'll try. I've never been to Oregon, so I'm really excited.
I know you are. That's great.
So, create curious learners. Is that kind of what we might lead towards?
I like that.
I do too. So, I think we could do some cool graphics and things too. Yeah, I like that.
Point.
Mm-hmm.
And what would be cool about it is if it was a course, for teachers, we would set it up where they would be doing the things that they would then be asking their students to do. So we would teach them to go through that, that questioning strategies, and then they would be practicing with those research tools and sharing and reflecting.
Yeah.
So the basis of it is get students to ask their own questions, use research tools.
Yes, research tools.
To find answers and extend inquiry, because it's not, some of them are open-ended. They're not going to be able to find right or wrong answers. And then share and reflect on learning. Is that kind of,
those are two important things. Reflecting, that's a big part of those FIP modules that the state put out that for several years schools have had their teachers do, the FIP modules,
Right.
practices, and reflection, feedback is a big part of that. So sharing and reflection, okay.
So often we skip the reflection.
Exactly.
we don't have time. But it's such a powerful piece of it. And then with the tools that we have now for people to reflect,
Right.
and then it becomes a public audience. I'm going to add that in too.
Yeah.
And all of that is it's the PBL model, it's the inquiry-based learning model, all of it is kind of going into there. But starting with getting them to ask their own questions is going to be, I think, the pivotal piece.
Mhm.
Okay. So let's jump down to number 3, the what.
Okay.
What teacher needs will this course address?
Well, I was just thinking about the TEKS. A lot of areas on the TEKS, but I don't know if you want to put that in,
So like the professional development.
Yeah, it's going to, a lot of that.
Growth is
Higher order. I mean, say what was the question again? Number 3,
what teacher needs will this course address?
What teacher needs
Mm-hmm.
will this course address? If I flip over to the document, will I lose my Hangout or I have to come?
Nope, it'll just be a different tab. I'm actually on the document now too, so if I'm making funny faces, that's why.
Okay, so I was thinking about what teacher needs will this course address? Well, I think here's what I observe sometimes is they need the freedom and the opportunity to take risks to go this route, to make it more student-centered, but there is their fear that they won't master the standards and therefore their testing is going to reflect that.
Okay, so freedom and opportunity to take risks. And so if they are to do that outside of classroom, is that what you're, outside of their classroom time that they can then bring back to the classroom time?
I was listening to the school improvement team talk recently.
Uh-huh.
They're out there in the schools, with assigned places to work based on state recommendations for school improvement. And that's what they see often is that the teachers need the opportunity to take risk and try new strategies, risk-free of being reprimanded if that one doesn't work and students don't succeed with that. But that's what it might take for them to find the ways that do work.
Okay.
With student, and not always resort to a remediation type of online program.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's also going to provide teachers with new strategies.
Mm-hmm. Offering new strategies, offering solutions, strategies to, and I don't know whether, for learning, I mean, to help the students learn, to internalize.
Okay, I just write that down there. So provide teachers with new strategies for engaging students with technology, enhanced learning tasks that are successful.
Mm-hmm.
And so a new way to use technology that isn't just doing technology for technology's sake.
Mm-hmm. It really transforms learning.
Mm-hmm. I also think it increases student self-efficacy. I hate that, but I can't say that word.
Yeah.
Self-efficacy, which so many of us struggle with, getting students to care. But if they're asking their own questions and are relying on that community of their classroom and online to find the answers, I think that just really pushes them to take more ownership of it. Mm-hmm. So we I think similar, what do we want participants to take away from the course? I guess one of the things I would say is confidence to try new strategies.
Mm-hmm.
And new skills, exposure.
And the reflection piece that you referred to earlier, to take time for that. Good. To use that as a valuable tool for for their own learning. For example, recently a teacher used Flipgrid
Mhm.
to have her high school students reflect on their year in her class.
Uh-huh.
So it was after their final exam,
Mhm.
and she asked them to reflect back on that class, you know, what they learned, how they felt about the work that they did. And to her, the teacher, she felt like that would help her improve the course next year.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, she really valued their feedback, and she gave them a place to record it. So she has that, you know, to go back and listen to over and over. And I think the students appreciated the fact that they were asked and could just be totally honest.
Right.
So I think that would help teachers gain confidence when they do offer reflection. They can use that, you know, and it either, you know, solidifies what they're doing is working, or be open to new strategies and to try, you know, other things if that didn't work or wasn't well received.
I think I might move this.
And also, a takeaway would be the network of support
Yeah.
across the state. If we're going to get all the RESAs, or at least various parts of the state, to take part, they're collaborating with more people than just
Yeah.
school and district.
Exactly.
And so that would be a takeaway. And I think it's also a need, because some people in their building might just be ready and raring to go to try something new, but they're not being encouraged in their buildings.
Right. And they need encouragement from elsewhere if they don't find it in their building.
And ideas. Oh God, you can pick up so much from people.
Oh gosh, I know. That's true. We're just talking about that this morning in our session that we did on virtual reality. You know, who to follow out of the group, you know, having a Twitter account or some other method of you know, your own personal learning network to connect with other people that are doing what you're wanting to do or teaching what you're teaching. You can learn from each other.
Exactly.
A community of learners.
Right. I think without saying it, we're taking away strategies for building inquiry into your instruction. You know, even though the course isn't titled inquiry-based learning, that's what it comes down to. So maybe by modeling those strategies, people start building it in. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know how. So a takeaway for that would be, I'm just going to put it building in more inquiry.
Yeah, putting more inquiry strategies. That goes right along with our new social studies and science standards.
And I put that up in what will it address, because the science, social studies, ELA, they kind of already do it. And then math can be inquiry based too, but I think more than, we'll just say the new science and social studies. Right?
Yeah.
I think ELA has kind of always been inquiry based.
Right.
And then we'll just, I think I wouldn't want to limit it to science and social studies teachers.
Oh no, right.
Okay.
That's what I'm hearing is a big focus in the new standards is the inquiry strategy, but that should be in every content area.
Okay, good.
All content.
Going down to C, letters number 3C. What can we use? And we can always tweak this. We're just brainstorming now. What can we use to measure the effectiveness of the course on teacher learning?
Well, certainly having some kind of way to reflect, and communicate that reflection, measure the effectiveness, and then maybe at the end of the school year, would you have, at the end of the time when they participate, at the end of the course, maybe a year or maybe weeks or months, or at the end of the next school year, that group come back together and be interviewed and that shared publicly about how it did change their classroom, what worked and didn't work. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And that kind of leads me to another topic down a little bit lower. One of what this course, the inquiry course I'm doing this summer, they're doing ahead of time, like 2 hangouts, then the deep dive, and then afterwards 2 more.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if we could do a blended model like that, where instead of the learning just taking place in the summer, right? That's when they're going to be exploring. That's where they'll be building tools. I feel like we should support them during the year.
Exactly. Okay.
So it could be that we have, the online course, then we can have maybe a deep dive where everyone comes together if they're able to, and then have some hangouts throughout the year for coaching and for things like that. It might be harder to get a commitment for people for a year-long type thing.
True. But like you're saying, do a variety of things where there is communication.
So
sort of on some kind of timeline. So
yeah.
They've got to, that's the way to, I think, measure the effectiveness is you've got to stay connected to those people throughout till the end. But along the way, what are they doing? Let's see.
Yeah, because otherwise they might have built it and then tried it once and it didn't go as well as they hoped, and they don't have someone to bounce it off of. Right. Oh, well, I did this, you could tweak it this way, or have you thought of maybe doing it this way? And then they, I think, would be more encouraged to keep up with it. And not an issue, but a thing with starting it in the summer could be that if they take the course in the summer and then we're asked to do follow-up, the coming school year, if they change districts or whatnot, that could be interesting.
Well, if they these having a deep dive together and online, that might be hard if they leave districts, but if the online part they could continue to participate in, right?
That's true. And there would be, I'm thinking, you guys tell me if I'm crazy for this, but no cost associated with it.
Right.
Unless you think there should be.
That's typically, because how ours is done, unless it's a special class. In the content areas, there are charges. In some of our content area PLs, there are charges, especially if they're bringing in someone from the outside. But in the technology part at our RESA, because we're not at ETC, it's just the instructional technology. We don't charge for most things.
Okay, good. Yeah, I would want it to be free too. Especially if the tools we're going to be using are free, and unless, like you said, if we did a face-to-face and there was travel, and if you had to book a place or something like that. But,
what about you, Bunny? Is there a charge?
Yes, we charge for everything. We sure do. Because we are still earning our own funds.
Yeah.
But this being in the summer like this and connected with the RESAs, we could possibly not charge for it. I'm curious about the badging part of it. If we decide to do a badge or offer credit or some kind of end result, I don't know. We'll have to talk more about that.
And you might have to, we'd have to speak with the PL person, PL director and her assistant about the hours that they spend, how that they can get credit for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that has to be face-to-face, if you can count the online Hangouts, can those, your online time, your Hangouts, can that be counted in your hours?
Correct.
And could we also encourage the purchase of a book if you feel like they need to read one of the books, Carrie, that you're reading, or any other material that we might want to pull in? Would it be okay to put that in, or let that be an option to purchase it? I mean,
That always brings credibility to a course, I think, to have something that it's based on.
Okay.
I need to run to the front a minute. They're giving away a gift to one of our employees that's leaving. I'll be back very shortly. Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I'll be right back.
Okay. With the PLU option, I know one of the ladies here said that a PLU is now only being counted for people who are not certified or seeking certification.
is that right?
That's what she said. I mean, it's still good to, to document that you're doing these extra things, but I wonder if we could tie it in with the professional growth plans that teachers are having to do. If somehow, let me think, if they could tie it, how all teachers are having to write a professional growth plan and then document what they did throughout the year.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if we could package it and this could be a year-long professional growth plan. And, we help build in their, what's their goal setting and then how they're monitoring it. I don't know. That might be more than we want to bite off.
Well, I think put that on there as a topic to find out what's involved in that.
Let's see. And if we did a book, I would think you would want that book to be read in the summer, because so often people don't have much time elsewhere to read. But that could be encouraged. I don't know if maybe it would be required, but that's, again, something to think about.
Yeah.
And let me get through. I'm done with the dive into inquiry, but then I'm only a couple, like 20, 30 pages into the make just one change. We'll see how that goes.
Okay.
And,
did you enjoy the inquiry book?
I did, yeah. It's pretty simple concept. It can be as simple as you want to make it, or as wide open as you want to make it. So there's that opportunity for, structure, a little bit of structure, less structure, and, even less structure as students engage in the process. So that I like that piece of it.
Oh, that's great. I look forward to getting it. Okay, so in our next, where are we now on our paper? I'm not looking.
Let's see. I'm just gonna pull up what the ISTE standards it might support.
Would we need to have the teacher ones in there, or are we just focusing on the benefit to the students, to learning?
I think so. If we're gonna make, and the student standards are updated, the teacher ones I think are being revised.
Okay.
So it might fall under the knowledge constructor. I think that might
the teacher ISTE are being revised
for teachers. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me. Yeah, I think I'm looking at the standards. It was linked in there. And the knowledge constructor says students critically curate a variety of resources using digital tools to construct knowledge, produce creative artifacts, and make meaningful learning experiences for themselves and others. So they plan and employ research strategies to locate information. They evaluate the accuracy. They curate information. Yeah, that one might fit really well.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go back here. So I'm going to put
students.
Okay. So we'll keep talking about the format. We've got the PL course development retreat in October. But other than that, we don't have any other time set. And some of the people that said they were interested in being a part of the committee aren't here today. So I know Lisa had a question mark. I'm sure she'd probably be involved. But I don't know how many other people, Diane, would be involved.
I don't know either.
Everybody seemed interested.
Yeah,
It's just a hard time of year. People grab you and you can't get away for something like this. But I feel like we've made a lot of headway, and so I think they'll all jump in.
Okay.
I think that from getting to know everybody, I think everybody has a lot, they have things to contribute, a lot from their own experiences, to contribute. So it might be that we do have more participation in
the development.
Yeah.
And one thing I would want to be kind of, not a stickler, but I don't know. I would be concerned about people that haven't been engaged in the process wanting to facilitate the course at their RESA, simply because they might not be as invested. And I'd rather people that are invested facilitate so it gets a good reputation.
Yeah.
If it's slack, if someone runs it, and I don't know how people would run their online course, but if people don't really do a good job with it, it could flop. So I don't know what you guys think about that. It's just my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with what you're saying,
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying exactly. But I think if we make some assignments, then
we talked about that earlier, about different people being responsible for different parts of the content,
right?
Or either volunteering to do a part. So, but if we were to do it that way and we work on that, let everybody give constructive criticism for it across the board for all of it, so that we are all as a collective group satisfied and feel good about what we have to offer.
And that was one of the things we did with the Club Tech. We made sure that for each module, we set the facilitation guidelines ahead of time. Who would do what? How would we respond? How often? And then have those processes all worked out. But then we also had a template for the challenges so that it all looked the same. And then there was quality control that would go back behind it, which was me. So, but that made it seem more professional. And I would like this to come off as really professional.
Right. That's a major point right there. And I feel good about it, Carrie, because you've done something very much like this and yours worked.
Yeah.
So my one question I had about it though is, how did you get them to sign up?
That was we just advertised, through word of mouth, and then through the district newsletter. And we had a session at one of our PL days, just an introduction to it. So, and then people just signed up via, back then they had to register for it. So that would be a discussion point for us. How would people register, and who would facilitate? Are we just going to facilitate for our RESA, or would it be the big thing? And I might propose, and can throw it to the group too, that this first year we do it as a large group and share that facilitation, because responding to people is extremely time consuming. And if we kind of share that load of the facilitation of it, as well as the Hangouts, then they'll get a different perspective. It won't just be, me or Diane. It could be, a multiple perspective of professionals. So maybe this first year start a little bit smaller, and then possibly open it up later. And that was one of the questions that someone put on there. What would it look like year 2?
Mhm.
Year 2 could, get bigger,
Right.
have different facilitators, as well as maybe have some teacher facilitators that
Mhm.
went through the course the year before.
Exactly. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Bill.
That's a good question though. I think it'll gain traction.
I do too.
I do too, and I think it'll have a lot of clout being done from all areas of the
Yeah.
state.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we did it as a collaborative thing this first year, meaning all of us are involved in it
Right.
statewide, not just each RESA doing it themselves by them. Okay, so there would be some kind of registration link, I guess, that all RESAs would share that same link.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then for people to register. And I know each of us has different types of registration programs, but would this have to go through that?
It's a good question.
Could those names and all be added to whatever your local one is if they require us to have that, but we've got to have a registration, or they could go through their local registration and then we're given that information so that it can all be compiled into one spreadsheet. So we present our class.
We could do a Google form as well and just have people register that way, set a limit. And then if they finish the course, then is it possible to put them in the RESA's registration system if they finish?
I'll ask our PL person about that who handles Ascentus.
Uh-huh.
If we did our own registration and then put them in that one for their documentation of their hours.
Right.
I'll have to find out.
Yes, I think that would be possible with ours, with what we
Okay.
use, but the registration, either way, I think would be okay with our RESA.
Okay,
Do
that'd
the
be great.
Google form, like you say, or register individually
Mm-hmm.
through that.
And I guess we could talk about then the cap on the number of people too, because there is a in the first year, if we're trying to keep it smaller, kind of pilot it, tweak it out.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want it to be super huge,
Right.
because then it just becomes too much to manage.
Right.
So we can talk about how many people, per RESA. And it might just be that 5 of us want to even put it out to our districts this first
Mhm.
year. And then we can say, okay, for, Bunny, which one are you at?
Chattahoochee Flint.
Okay, Chattahoochee Flint, you guys have 20 seats. At
Mhm.
Northeast Georgia, you have 20 seats. And
Right.
just try and fill those.
Right.
And then if room's left over and you still have a wait list, then we could go
Right.
from there.
Because our counties are all very small. I don't think we could get up 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And what I was working on doing this next year is a little bit of a spinoff of what Jim created for his RESA last year with Innovative Classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
I was working on something. Well, I've got my document created about to share it. But this would really go right. I mean, this would be the same as that that Innovative Classrooms initiatives. This would fill that.
Oh, good.
I mean, based on what I had planned, it's very similar to this.
Oh, good.
So this could be that class, and those people could participate. That, like, I've even talked to some of the counties already, and they have names of people that they're going to put in this class.
Oh, that's super.
So,
How many are you going to have in your class, Diane?
well, I'm focusing just K-8 this year. So
Uh-huh.
20 to 25 people.
Great.
It wouldn't be involving high school. It would be involving kindergarten to 8th grade. So in some school systems, it's a K-12 building.
Mm-hmm.
That could be 1 or 2 people. If they have an instructional coach, it might just be 1.
Uh-huh. Gotcha.
Instructional
Okay,
technology person, it might just be 1. But if it's 2, different buildings, it could be 2 people from a district.
Yeah. Well, keep us posted on that. Okay, I got to go again.
Okay.
I'll make it to the front.
Thank you, Bunny.
Okay.
I'm going to stop the broadcast real quick.
Okay.